Welcome into another edition of the Cory Sanning Show, everybody. Coming to you live over the airways of YouTube, Facebook as well, and Twitter/X. I'm your host, yours truly. Coming at you live on this Monday night. Got some Monday night football action going on. We're going to try to make this short, to the point, and entertaining. So we have a great show ahead of you. Well, great show in terms of some content. Obviously, we're going to get into Joe Burrow's unfortunate injury status. Set to have toe surgery on a grade 3 turf toe, I believe, with some torn ligaments. Kansas City, is their dynasty up in the air, or is it up in flames? What's going on with the Chiefs after an 0-2 start? Lamar Jackson quietly making some history with a win over the Browns. Going to get into some other Mad Minute topics at the end. And, well, let's dive into a beef between two of country music's finest, I guess you should say, here to cap off the show. But welcome into another edition of the Cory Sanning Show. As ever mentioned, I'm your host, Cory Sanning. Those of you that are just tuning in for the first time on the airways of YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment to help boost the algorithm. And then obviously you always hit that bell button to get notified of when we drop our weekly live content. Well, I should say several weekly live streams. But welcome into another edition. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to try to keep this short, sweet, to the point, because I am trying to get off to watch some Monday Night Football, and I have to get off here to help my fiance finish painting a wall in our bedroom, which did not expect to come home to do, but you know, happy spouse, happy house. I'd be remiss, though, if we didn't mention this at today's sponsor, the Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation. As many of you in the Knoxville and East Tennessee area are familiar with East Tennessee's minor league hockey team, the Niceville. Thinking of Nashville already. The Knoxville Ice Bears. Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation works hand in hand with the team to give game-changing opportunities to those in need through the power of hockey. Whether that be learning how to ice skate, whether that be interacting with the team, some hands-on experiences with this at the arena, I should say, the Civic Coliseum. I've been blessed enough to work with the Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation this summer. Got a chance to interview Brody Feather, who I hope to have on the show again here in the next few weeks. Got introduced to him, and incredible kid, incredibly wise and intelligent beyond his years, particularly in the sports realm. Looking forward to talking with him again. Again, look up the Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation on Instagram. Look up them up on the web. Champions for those in need in East Tennessee through the power of hockey. For those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, though, we are going to be getting into some unfortunate NFL news. Starting off, hate to kick a show off this way, but we don't really have much of a choice. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow was announced this morning by ESPN's Adam Schefter that he will need to undergo toe surgery, which will sideline him for at least 3 months. As we see right here, he's dealing with, like I said, I believe a grade 3 turf toe with torn ligaments, and he will miss an extended period of time, if not the remainder of the rest of the season. Cincinnati, thankfully, by the grace of God, started 2-0 for the first time in the Joe Burrow era, but unfortunately it comes at the loss of your franchise quarterback. At this point in Joe Burrow's career, is it fair to label him as injury prone? As unfair as it may seem, despite me using the word fair just a few words ago, I should say, or is it organizational malpractice that the Bengals have not invested in protecting their $275 million man? We saw this early on in my life, I should say. Back in 2005, I remember it specifically. It was the AFC wildcard game. Bengals were coming off an incredible season. Carson Palmer was the quarterback at the time. If you remember, it was Chad Ochocinco before he was Ochocinco. He was Chad Johnson back then. Chris Henry. And the Bengals were coming off a season in which Carson Palmer led the NFL in touchdown passes as well as completion percentage, was an MVP candidate. Had just come off of a couple of seasons removed from winning the Heisman Trophy at USC. And first play from scrimmage hits Chris Henry on a deep route down the right far sideline. And unfortunately, offensive line was unable to protect him, and he tore his ACL and MCL and was never really the same until he got to Arizona. And of course, he would end up leaving Cincinnati because the Bengals refused to invest in winning talent around him. But it's highly, highly unfortunate because Joe Burrow is, I'm the aforementioned Bengals hater on the internet. I know it. The Bengals to me are what the Cowboys are to Stephen A. Smith. But you don't ever relish in something like this. I mean, we'll look at what we've seen coming into this year. The Bengals had won just one game in weeks 1 through 2 over the past 6 seasons under Zach Taylor. Now at 2-0, they have more wins this year than the previous 6 seasons combined, which is saying something for what was a perennial Super Bowl contender. Still could be if they got it right, and yet still have a loss that overshadows it all. So you see him on Adam Schefter's profile right here. Getting to the main point at hand, I should say, organizational malpractice or injury prone. The Bengals' track record under the Brown family particularly does not leave me with any sort of, I guess I should say, inkling to give them the benefit of the doubt. As I mentioned earlier, the Brown family cheated the taxpayers of Hamilton County to get that stadium. They threaten the southwestern Ohio people all the time with leaving and picking the organization up and going elsewhere, and then act all happy when the city finally gives in and caves and the county finally gives in and caves to their demands because they have too cheap of an ownership group just to pay for their own shit. And unfortunately now, once again, Joe Burrow's at Joe Burrow could possibly end up as the only player in NFL history to win Comeback Player of the Year 3 times. That's not an area you want to be in. It's definitely not something you want, particularly for some guy that has aspirations of being an all-pro, winning an MVP. Had put up MVP-like numbers last season, but unfortunately, the team wasn't good enough and did not make the playoffs to give him a chance, a fighter's chance to even be in the race for the award. We're going to get into a little bit of reaction on First Things First. Eric Mangini, regular guest on that show, gave his thoughts, compared Joe Burrow to another injury-prone quarterback. I think it's a bit of an unfair comparison, but we're going to listen real quick and react on the other side. Those of you that are in the chat, tuning in live, no, we don't have any of you right now, but weigh in with your opinions. Always love to hear what everyone else has to say. But we're going to get into this clip real quick from First Things First on FS1, and then we'll react on the other side. Here's Eric Mangini on Joe Burrow's injury.
Yeah, this is so hard from an organizational standpoint. And how do you plan moving forward where your franchise quarterback 3 different times now has missed significant amount of time? And when you look at it, it is different body parts. And I think the easy way to view this is it's just an O-line problem. But they poured a ton of resources into the O-line.
Yep.
And they poured a ton of resources into this offense.
I have to pause it for just a second because I don't quite. Let me replay that for a second. Did I just hear him say they poured a ton of resources into the offensive line?
Poured a ton of resources into the O-line. It's just an O-line problem. But they poured a ton of resources into the O-line.
Yep.
And they poured a ton of resources into this offense.
Maybe I'm missing something, but aside from Orlando Brown Jr., who is a hell of a disappointment for them, what resources have they poured into this offensive line? It hasn't gotten better at all. I regress.
And they've done everything they can to help him be as successful as he can. And
I thought we were going to get a better. Forgive me, I did not watch First Things First today. Don't always tune into the national media shows, even though I do have love for Chris Broussard and Nick Wright and Coach Mangini. But I'm kind of taken aback at what I'm hearing right now. I'm going to replay that, and then we're going to finish it out finally, and then we'll react.
And they poured a ton of resources into this offense, and they've done everything they can to help him be as successful as he can. And that makes a lot of sense. But it has a little bit of a Tua-like feeling where
it's
just
not concussion.
When it keeps happening, and now it's different body parts, and that was the issue with re-signing Tua, or giving Tua the big contract. There was questions about ability, but he answered a lot of those prior to the contract. Then it becomes a question of one more concussion, and he's out long term. Now with Joe, it's a different body part, but it's a consistent pattern that we're seeing. So how do you plan? Well, how do you plan moving forward not knowing whether or not your quarterback's going to be able to be there long term on any given season.
Good point there at the end, Coach Mangini. But to sit there and say that the Bengals have done everything that they can to, aside from, I guess in a way he does have a point, because Joe Burrow did go on a hellacious media campaign Super Bowl week this past year of campaigning for the Bengals to re-sign Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They obviously did that. They finally came to an agreement with Trey Hendrickson to at least keep him around for one more season. I do believe that's going to be it. But aside from that, the Bengals have just basically thrown Joe Burrow to the wolves every season and saying, hey, hopefully see you on the other side, pal. I'm struggling to find the words here to kind of react to what he just said in terms of the Bengals throwing all they can to help Joe Burrow. Maybe they have in a certain degree, but if I were Cincinnati this offseason and I campaigned for it all, I mean, despite me being a longtime Ravens fan, as you see there in the back and you see right here, Cincinnati didn't have the cap space nor the resources to keep both of those receivers and to somehow fill out the rest of their team. I think a lot of organizations would struggle to fill out the rest of their roster when four of their guys take up 75% of the salary cap. Trey Hendrickson is not a huge game wrecker when it comes to stopping the run. Of course, he did have that play last week where he practically ended Jacksonville's what little hopes they had with the sack, and the clock ran out. Obviously, it's what he does. But to sit there and say that, I mean, the toe Burrow, that was, you can't really get a laugh out of a guy's injuries, but I guess that's something that I don't know. But overall, it's a bummer. It really is. You want to see, I mean, for as much as I sit here and I hate on Cincinnati and I give them shit because I love messing with their fan base because they're easy to piss off, you don't wish injury upon anybody. Just like, same thing what we're going on in the world right now. You don't wish death upon anybody. And for such a talented guy that's probably the best pure thrower of the football in the NFL right now, at least he definitely has the best accuracy in all football and has for years. It's just unfortunate. He could end up being, he's far better, of course, but he could end up being the more talented version of Andrew Luck. Those of you remember Andrew Luck retired after 6 seasons, technically 7 because he sat a season out, but Joe Burrow's going into his 6th season. And this is going to be the 3rd time now, and it's a different body part, as Eric Mangini said, that he's missed significant time due to an injury. It's insane to me. And I mean, he even called himself out for it at the NFL awards show, which, props to him for that. But it's insane to me to think that this now is the 3rd time. And I know we're given an optimistic timeline of 3 months. He could come back in December, but who knows what the Bengals are going to be with Jake Browning by then. Jake Browning came in yesterday, and fortunately Cincinnati did win the game, but he threw 3 interceptions. Threw a couple of touchdowns, but he turned the ball over 3 times. So they were really fortunate to win that game. I mean, Jacksonville is definitely nothing to write home about. I've said that all season long. But even if he does come back in December, is Cincinnati's playoff hopes, are they even going to be in the picture? They could be. But with that opens the door now for the Steelers to potentially slip in the back door of the AFC North. And I before the season, I picked the Dolphins to make the playoffs over the Bengals. It's looking like a foolish decision now with the Dolphins sitting here at 0-2. But Cincinnati's saving grace is that they started 2-0. And granted, they did belly the Browns, which was a divisional opponent, but they're nothing to write home about. We saw them get destroyed by the Ravens on Sunday, and it seems like they're probably going to be starting a new quarterback next week. Kevin Stefanski won't commit to that, but at the same time, I think it's clear in a way that Flacco is not the long-term starter. But Cincinnati, it's just shitty luck, man. And I hate to put it like that, but it is just shitty luck. Cincinnati, maybe it's karma for them being such a poor ownership group that doesn't put anything. I mean, one of the only organizations in the NFL in which you don't have carts come in and get the guy that's in, pick your injured guys up and take them to the locker room. Joe Burrow didn't need to be walking on that toe or even be having help putting any sort of pressure on that toe, and he had to walk to the locker room. This isn't a rain on Cincinnati's parade show, though, so I'm not going to dance on Bengals fans' graves. But no, it's just a highly unfortunate situation. You pray for Joe Burrow to make a speedy recovery, and you pray for him to get back on the field, because the Ravens-Bengals rivalry is fun when he's a part of it. Now, granted, Joe Burrow's 1-6 against Lamar Jackson, so it hasn't been much of a rivalry, but those two games last year were instant classics, and Cincinnati very well could have won either of them. And it's very unfortunate because he had a Thanksgiving Day clash. It was going to be a showdown. Maybe, who knows, maybe miracles happen every day. Maybe he'll be better by then. But Cincinnati's saving grace is that Jake Browning is serviceable. They are shopping around for quarterbacks. We'll see who they can manage to see who they can find, unless they're just going to stick with Browning. But their saving grace is that they started 2-0. But the unfortunate part is that they started 2-0 this season, and then they lose the biggest cog that runs their machine. You just can't make this kind of stuff up. You really can't. The NFL is a game of skill and luck. Probably a few other ingredients mixed in there that I can't really name off the top of my head right now. But unfortunately, it's just a string of shitty luck for Joe Burrow that's possibly is ended with him sitting out a vast majority of the season, and we might not see him play until next year. So let me know what you all think in the comments in the live chat. Like I said, it's an unfortunate situation. You don't wish that on anybody, and you definitely hope for a speedy recovery, and you hope that Cincinnati will be back in playoff contention sooner than later. But moving on to the next topic of the day, we're going to get into the Kansas City Chiefs, who are in trouble. And when I say in trouble, I don't mean in trouble about making the playoffs, and maybe they still make a run at the AFC Championship game. They could still definitely win this division, no, but they're 0-2 for the first time since 2000. The Kansas City Chiefs are 0-2 for the first time since 2014, and I believe that was either Andy Reid's first or second season in Kansas City. They had no Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been 0-2 since his sophomore year in high school, if that tells you anything. Lost to the Chargers down in Brazil, and then lose, obviously, again to the defending champion Eagles at home. And look pedestrian doing it. That's what's been alarming about them, is that despite these, being relatively close games, Patrick Mahomes is missing receivers left and right. He had a throw to Tyquan Thornton yesterday. Thankfully, he hit the second one, but it just wasn't a Mahomes-like play. Pardon me, if that makes sense. And this is continuing a trend that's gone on for the past 2 years. Patrick Mahomes has not been statistically or by the eye test the best quarterback in football in quite some time. Now, he still makes the plays to win when it matters most and get it done when it matters most. But consistently, he's not been the guy that threw 50 touchdowns. He's not been the guy that won 2 MVPs, that was a 2-time first-team All-Pro selection. I don't know what's been going on. Maybe it's the lack of weapons. Maybe it's the offensive line, even though their offensive line isn't horrible. They are down Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy for a foreseeable future, which definitely hampers the offense a little bit. And Travis Kelce's up there in age. But they just look pedestrian. The defense showed up and, held the Eagles to 20 points after they fell behind. Props to them, but there's just so many alarming signs right now about this team that signifies they might not, their version of, I don't know, oblivion could be just making the playoffs as a 3rd or 4th seed, or maybe as a 5th seed. Heaven forbid the Broncos or Chargers win that division. And, win a playoff game or two. It's not like a lot of other teams who, once they fall off, they fall off. They don't make the playoffs. They have top 10 draft picks for years, go into an endless cycle of rebuilding. Who knows? That Chiefs version of purgatory could be being just good enough to at least win a few playoff games, looking at you Steelers fans, but not getting it done when it matters most, which they didn't last year, but they had one back-to-back, and they have been to 5 Super Bowls in the Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce era. But it just has looked bad. And it got to a point where those of you that tuned in were actually going to look at this. Chris Jones, one of the best defensive players in the NFL, one of the best defensive leaders in the NFL, chirping at the very end of the game about numbers, not winning. Winning. We're going to go over to Twitter, see it, listen to it. We'll react on the other side because I think this is telling. Pull up the video right here. Make sure we got full volume so you can hear. And just take a listen. Take a listen.
Their advantage again today. And now they take a couple knees and can work their way to a 2-0 start to this season. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are about to start 0-2.
I'm going to play that again. Listen closely. If you hear Chris Jones, he said, man, you ain't even have 100 yards. And you hear Jalen Hurts respond, and he won the fucking game. Shut your ass up. Listen one more time.
Work their way to a 2-0 start to this season. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are about to start 0-2 and hand Patrick Mahomes.
And whilst that might seem like minuscule in the moment, minuscule to the bigger picture, I've not heard this team whatsoever banner about someone not throwing for, I think Jalen Hurts threw for 105 yards. Wasn't the most explosive offensive outing from the Eagles. They haven't really been explosive on offense all year. I can speak for myself because A.J. Brown was my number one receiver, and he hasn't done anything for me, to put it mildly, put it in PG terms. But I don't know. Are they in trouble? What defines trouble? Are they in trouble of missing the playoffs? I don't think so. I think they can rebound from 0-2. I think 1-3, 2-2, maybe perhaps more so 1-3 is a real possibility right now because they go on the road to play the Giants next week. I think they can easily handle that game. And then they host the Ravens, which I think they'll lose that game. So 1-3 is a real possibility. And I think they could rebound from 1-3 and make the playoffs? I do. But at the end of the day, I mean, piggybacking off what I said earlier about Patrick Mahomes, the guy has not looked like Patrick Mahomes the past 2 years, and the same trend has continued through 2 weeks. Through 2 weeks of the regular season, Patrick Mahomes is completing 58.8% of his passes, rounded up to 59, only thrown for 445 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and a passer rating of 82. That's below league average. Patrick Mahomes for his career, 66.5% completion percentage, 247 touchdowns, only 75 picks, 101.8 passer rating, one of the best ever. I believe it's top 5 ever. And that's just not the guy we've been getting the past 3 years. Think of it. He's still that high in passer ratings and still that high in touchdown interception ratio and completion percentage. But the past 2 years, he's been above average, good, very good at best. At times he's looked bad. At times he had more interceptions for the majority of the season last year, particularly, than touchdowns. If anyone can get it together, it's him, but he's got to do it sooner than later because the Chiefs need him now more than ever with the obviously Travis Kelce aging and the weapons not being there like they used to be. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's not in town anymore. DeAndre Hopkins, despite not being very impactful for the Chiefs last year, he's not in town anymore. So who knows what could happen? The Chiefs, dynasty in trouble? Absolutely. Their ability to make the playoffs and perhaps win a game or two? No. But I said it at the beginning of the year, I think the Chiefs is this regime, Kelce, Andy Reid, Mahomes, Chris Jones, throw him in there. I think this version of the Chiefs winning championships and going to the Super Bowl every year, I just think it's done. I think the Ravens are better. I think the Bills are better. I think teams in their own division, Denver, the Chargers are getting better. Cincinnati, if Joe Burrow can ever stay healthy, I mean, they've already gone into Arrowhead in the midst of that dynasty and beat them once. Granted, that's ancient history now, but they've proven they can do it. So I think it just depends on how you look at it. I think like I said, I'm going down with the ship. I picked the Chiefs to win the division because I'm not going to bet against them until they've consistently proven that I should. And that's a tall task for an Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes led team when Patrick Mahomes is on Mount Rushmore of the best quarterbacks or football players ever. So let me know what you all think in the comments about that. I'm not ready to write the Chiefs off yet, but I am ready to sound the alarm on them going back to the Super Bowl for yet another time. It's a lot of miles on those legs to keep going that far in the playoffs, and I think it's worn down on them. And I think they're just going to have to retool, not rebuild, retool. There's a difference. So let me know what you all think, but we're going to move on to a little bit more of I guess it depends on what team you cheer for, more of a cheerful topic. Lamar Jackson, my favorite player, obviously, continues to make history quietly as the Ravens blew out the Browns. And what do I mean by that? Lamar Jackson now, as of today, could change next week based on how he performs, now has the highest NFL career passer rating, passing Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers 102.60. Lamar now at 102.65 for his career. Passed him on Sunday. Oh, and like Doug Clawson says, Lamar is the all-time QB leader in rush yards. Quite the combination. Somewhere, I think Bill Polian is, I wouldn't say turning in his analyst grave per se, or scout grave per se, but yeah. And the crazy thing about it is that people still use the running back wide receiver term when trying to discredit Lamar to this day, despite him having 2 MVPs, 3 first-team All-Pro selections, should be 3 MVPs. And people are still sitting here finding ways to discredit how good this man is. Yeah. Has he yet to win the big game? Yep. So have a lot of quarterbacks. As far as I can recall, Aaron Rodgers, pictured right there, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and we're really going to count Kenny Pickett. Those might be the only significant. I'm probably forgetting a name or two. Very few active quarterbacks have actually won a Super Bowl, so we're getting into that era where we're looking for new people, new paces atop of the mountain. Patrick Mahomes has been an anomaly because nobody wins that much that early, except for Tom Brady, but not in the fashion in which Patrick Mahomes did. And now we're at a point where Lamar Jackson, all he has to do is win that one game, and he's got nothing else to prove. Everything's just a cherry on top of the sundae. And Lamar Jackson this year, for as good as he was last year, Lamar Jackson this year has been even better. That's the crazy thing. Every year he continues to get better. And I'm not saying that just to glow on my quarterback as a Ravens fan, but Lamar Jackson through 2 games, 69% completion percentage, 434 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, passer rating of 136.6. 158.3 is perfect. I know it's only been 2 games, but that is insane. That is unheard of. And the Ravens' last game as a team against the Browns rushed for 50 yards, still put up 41 points, and didn't have the most consistent offensive outing. But the plethora of riches on that Ravens offense now that DeAndre Hopkins and guys like Tylan Wallace and Tez Walker can be effective when called upon. Just an embarrassment of riches. And this guy is even better this year than he was last year when he threw 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions and was obviously robbed of MVP honors for the 3rd time in his career. At this point, if you're kidding yourself if you don't say that this guy's the best player in the NFL. Last 2 years, he's finished at 2. 2 years ago, it was to Tyreek Hill. This year was to Saquon. I am okay with Saquon getting his flowers, given all he's been through and what he accomplished last year and finally getting over the mountaintop and then rushing for 2,000 yards. But this is something to behold, and we need to take notice of it before it starts to dwindle with age. Like I said, we have come to a point in sports fandom in this day and age in the world where we don't appreciate greatness. We hate on consistent greatness. Sustained greatness gets old because we're tired of seeing the same person win every year. We're tired of LeBron winning MVP every year. Let's just go give it to someone else. Are we really going to look back at LeBron's career and say he was only the most valuable player in the league 4 times? Arguably should have won it 5 times in a row in that span of, you remember, from 2009 to 2013. Obviously, 2014, Kevin Durant comes out of nowhere and wins his first and only MVP. It's the same with Lamar Jackson. Voter fatigue is real. It really is. You think LeBron was never the most valuable player in the league or the best player in the league in his second go round in Cleveland? Steph Curry, those 2 years, give that to you. But voter fatigue is real. It really is. And when you have voters that literally came out and redefined the way the NFL MVP was voted on and literally stated in their reasoning, both verbal and written, that they gave it to Josh Allen because they felt sorry for him because he hasn't won one. I mean, where are we getting to in professional sports? I'm never going to let this go. You're going to get tired of hearing about this on this show and other pieces of other content platforms that that Standing Media is going to be released over the next couple of months. but it's just the truth. And sometimes you just don't like to hear the truth. And Josh Allen this past week was less than impressive. And now Bills fans are going online and saying, oh man, they choked last week. They blew a 15-point lead. They should have kept their foot on the gas. Okay. They had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, and they, throw a touchdown pass, and now they're saying Lamar stat padding. So you can't ever go wrong. You can't win for losing when it comes to Buffalo Bills fans. And Josh Allen completed 56% of his passes, 148 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 73 passer rating. Are we now going to finally stop discrediting the rest of the Bills roster, particularly James Cook? Tied with Derrick Henry with 16 touchdowns last year. Could have had a lot more if it wasn't for the Josh Allen tush push, which I did not mention this in the Chiefs-Eagles reaction I just did a second ago. I do hope they ban the tush push soon because I'm sorry it has no place in football, and it's getting to the point where you can't even really referee. You can't even really officiate it. Could count to you at least numerous false starts on the couple of the Eagles tush pushes last week that weren't called just because of the nature of the play and how it's run. But Lamar Jackson just on another planet, and it's only a matter of time before he gets the big one. We as Ravens fans hope it's this year, but it's only a matter of time. But barriers are meant to be broken, and that one will be broken very, very soon. Every other barrier has been broken. What more is there for him to prove? All you need is one, and then everything else is a cherry on top of the sundae. But we're going to get into the Mad Minute. Mad Minute is those of you that don't know who didn't take Mad Minutes back when you were in elementary school. A very quick math examination to determine your skills under a strict time frame. So this is where we react to sports topics, perhaps national media pundits, their takes in rapid fire fashion, I should say. Rapid fire fashion. And the good thing about doing shows during the week is that you do have shows like First Things First, First Take, heaven forbid, with Stephen A. Smith nowadays, and other shows as well. Obviously, you had FS1 have a lot of those canceled this week, but you get to react to takes in real time. And one take that I wanted to react to real quickly is, if I can find it here, is something that Nick Wright, as we know, is the biggest Chiefs homer on the internet, as he has every right to be because he grew up in Kansas City, did media in Kansas City for a very long time. We're going to hear what Nick Wright has to say about his Chiefs, and then we're going to react on the other side. And I'm looking forward to seeing it because, like I said, I did not watch First Things First today. Typically, I usually do during my lunch, but we're going to get into it here, and then we're going to react on the other side. Here is Nick Wright on what problems are plaguing the Chiefs right now.
Right now, a handful of things. And this isn't a spot you want to be in. Week one, I said the thing that concerned me was their overall pass defense, inability to generate a pass rush, and ability to, cover on the back end. I can't really even definitively say if they got better at that this week because Philly was not interested in throwing the ball down the field at all. So I don't know, was that because guys recovered? It's just not what they want to do. And the way they generated a pass rush this game was send everybody. You know what I mean? Which actually has been a pretty decent strategy against the Philly offense specifically, but against other quarterbacks, that can really burn you. So that, that's a concern. I think right now, for reasons I don't totally understand, they have the least effective running game in the league. Just like if you remove, and the numbers totally back that up if you remove Patrick running.
Yeah.
So they have been, and I hate seeing Patrick run the ball in September. Never seen it. Don't want to see it. Part of what I think has made him, part of what makes him so special is that he always has, one of the reasons, let me put it like this, he gets so much better in the playoffs, even though he's been so good in regular seasons, is he's had this thing in his back pocket all year that he saves for the playoffs. He is now activating it because what he is seeing is we're not having any success moving the ball otherwise. So that's a short list, and I could go deeper. Do I think it all gets fixed by Rice and Worthy coming back? Worthy first and then Rice? No, I don't think that all gets fixed. Do I think a lot of that gets fixed by that? Yes, I do. And do I think that there is the silver lining, if you will, is I think that the Chiefs have played poorly overall in huge stretches of both of these games. And yesterday's game, I think they should have won if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. And week 1, they could have stolen. You know what I mean? And so like that's where I'm at on it. But this isn't a team right now that looks scary. What's scary about them is who they are and the fact that they play in the Super Bowl every year, and they're still holding a Super Bowl this year. But right now, it's fair to criticize them from that performance because that was a winnable game at home that they wanted. And again, it's disrespectful to Philly say they gave it away, but it was in the balance. You could have taken it, and they didn't take it.
You know, Nick Wright makes a lot of good points there. Patrick Mahomes doesn't usually have to run a lot during the regular season, and he shouldn't because he's one of the most talented throwers, if not, one of the two most talented throwers of the football I've ever seen. And we've seen in the past few years, it's that 1 to 2 to 3, maybe sometimes 4 big plays with his legs. You saw it against the Bengals in the second go round in the AFC Championship game, even with the high ankle sprain that wins them these games in big moments. And he doesn't have to do that a lot throughout the regular season because you have, a pretty effective run game with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. Hasn't been effective through the first 2 weeks. You don't have Xavier Worthy. You don't have Rashee Rice. You don't have Tyreek Hill. I mean, he's gone. He's in Miami. Who knows how much longer he'll be there. And then you have an aging Travis Kelce. And this team is just its deficiencies. It's hard to cover up right now. And I think Nick Wright's made a lot of good points there. I do think it is fair that you criticize this team right now. Do I think that this is that Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy coming back will fix everything? No. But it'll give them a lot more opportunities to move the ball down the field and make bigger chunk plays that they weren't able to make. Other than the fact that Travis Kelce, I mean, it makes a good point. Travis Kelce dropped what would have been a very, very crucial touchdown late in the game that ended up being an interception. So the other Mad Minute topic we're going to get into is Shedeur Sanders. Everyone remembers Shedeur from his days in Colorado. Everyone remembers Shedeur from the big free fall in the draft and the draft prank call. But Shedeur Sanders, according to Adam Schefter, was in the 5th round, about to be selected, or the 4th round, I forget which, was about to be selected by the Ravens. They were actually about to take him, but apparently, according to multiple reports and, Adam Schefter, that Shedeur let them know, hey, I don't want to be in a situation where I have no earthly chance of starting anytime soon, which he would have never had any earthly chance of starting ahead of Lamar Jackson anyway. Told him, no, I'd rather go somewhere else. Then a few picks later, he winds up with the Cleveland Browns. First Take addressed that today. Cam Newton let his opinion be known. Cam Newton, obviously one of the more successful mobile quarterbacks and dual threat quarterbacks of his time, of all time, really. We're going to hear what Cam has to say on First Take, and then we'll react on the other side before we get into the final topic of the day, which is a pretty funny one, and it kind of strays away from our topics of sports, where we get into more of that lifestyle segment that we want to open up on the show. But here's Cam Newton. We'll react on the other side.
Can I say this? And I think if I'm Shedeur, you would ideally want to learn behind a guy like Lamar Jackson for this particular reason and this particular reason only. Not a lot of players can really cope with your star power, with your stardom, right? And let's really give credit where credit's due. At 28 years old, being a phenomenal athlete, the thing that I respect a guy like Lamar Jackson the most, we've never heard him have any off the field issues. He's been a stand-up guy, and if all of our opinion has always led to his on-field performance. Not a lot of people can relate to what Shedeur Sanders has been through in his whole life. And that right there serves even more to make him a better player because it's the totality of the position. And I think Lamar Jackson would have been able to relate to him in many ways.
Such a good point. But how many people are coming out of college thinking about learning instead of playing? And that's the only thing that I'm saying.
Stephen A makes a great point there at the end, but Cam, fantastic point right there. I agree wholeheartedly. Now, I do agree as well that Shedeur, you want to play. You don't want to come out and you don't want to sit behind. You don't want to be Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre. You don't want to be Jordan Love sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. Now, they weren't as highly, didn't have as much attention as Shedeur did coming out of the draft, given what transpired at Colorado, the fact that Deion Sanders is his dad. I think that would I have been taken aback had the Ravens drafted Shedeur? Absolutely. I'd have called my friend Christian and been like, dude, what the hell? We're not in the market for a quarterback. We just signed Cooper Rush. But given what Cam said, and the more I thought about it, it would have been a fantastic learning situation for Shedeur. If he wasn't gung-ho about getting to play, which I think by the end of the season he'll probably be, he or Dylan Gabriel will be the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback. But who better to learn from than being a model citizen off the field, which I'm not saying Shadeur's been a troublemaker, being under such a big magnifying glass microscope like Shedeur was coming out of the draft, and Lamar for different reasons and for much different reasons now, going to one of the best organizations in all of sports. I think Shedeur could have came out of that situation far better than he's going to come out of Cleveland, unless he takes the world by storm and becomes the Browns starter by the end of the season, which is entirely possible. But I see both sides of that argument. Would I have been mad had the Ravens drafted Shedeur? Probably not. I think it would have been a little bit of a headache at first, but I think he would have came out better than he's going to come out of, even if he ends up being the Browns starter. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Maybe in the future we'll see. But overall, I think both sides benefited only because Shedeur wants to play and he just didn't want to sit behind someone he's never going to replace unless Lamar's kind of in a walker and on a cane, ready for retirement, or has a season-ending injury. Shedeur was never going to replace Lamar, and I guess I can see his thinking when it comes to that. If I was a talented quarterback, I wouldn't want to play. I'm a former local reporter that spent some time on the national media stage for a year when I was at Sports Illustrated, and it was hard for me to leave that national platform to go to smaller local markets in which I wasn't the primary draw. I wasn't the primary draw at Sports Illustrated, but I was definitely the primary draw for Tennessee coverage when it came to Sports Illustrated, and that was a bit of a gut punch to my ego in my early 20s. So I can only imagine how Shedeur feels being that talented at football, more talented at football than I will ever be at anything. So last topic of the day, I told you we get into some lifestyle, something a little funny. We're going to get into one of my favorite country artists, and I say that sarcastically. Zach Bryan beefing with country singers Zach Bryan and Gavin Adcock are beefing. Who looks worse? Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background on this topic. So Zach Bryan is an Oklahoma native. Gavin Adcock was headlining an Oklahoma music festival in which Zach Bryan was in attendance at, was a part of. And Zach Bryan, for those of you who do not know, has a history of not only being abusive towards women, but just being a shithead in general. His music, in my opinion, is awful. I think anyone who thinks that it's any good is insane. And he's a crybaby that blames all his bad decisions on, oh my gosh, I need to get help. And he never gets help. He just keeps making the same dumb decisions over and over and over again. Well, during one of Zach Bryan's recent concerts in the past few months, 14-year-old girl took to social media to explain that she was upset because he wouldn't even bat her an eye on his way out of the concert. And he responded to this girl and basically said, yeah, I don't owe you anything after a 3-hour performance. And he literally said, get off my GOMD, get off my dick. And Gavin Adcock responds to that and says what we all are saying. We saw the ugly breakup with Barstool's Brianna Chicken Fry. I don't think Zach Bryan's a good person. I think a lot of the stuff he does is a mask, which right now that mask is very, 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 very revealing. And B, if you can't take the criticism of a 14-year-old girl, you don't deserve the spotlight you've been thrust in. And I think that that's something that got to Zach Bryan, but Zach Bryan goes to this as I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you. He goes and apparently, despite being at this festival all day with the chance backstage to confront Gavin Adcock, decides to, when Gavin's about to go perform his set, to pull up in front of a pickup truck and make a scene in front of a gate and then climb the fence when he could have just walked through the gate because everyone knew who he was. Let's just show you what I'm talking about here. This right here is the situation we're talking about. As you can see, Gavin Adcock being escorted back by security. This is after they had words at the fence, as you see right here. Like I said, Zach Bryan had been backstage at this show all day long. We're gonna and all of a sudden decided to make a big fuss right there. We're gonna give a quick listen to what Wake Up Barstool had to say on the subject real quick, and then we'll react on the other side. This is Gavin explaining his side of the story.
Did you have any idea that Jack Bryan was going to show up and do that?
Well, when we got to the festival, some of the people that ran the festival said, "We just want to let you know Zach Bryan said he's going to come by today. He lives somewhere around here." And I was like, "All right, that's fine. I ain't got nothing to do with that guy." And he comes in with his 2 security guards, big 6'4" guys, real tough guy, you know, and sees me standing between the buses. We're about to do a cold plunge. He said some cutty stuff, walked on, and then proceeded to linger around the bus for about an hour and a half while we were sitting in there watching some college football. And he finally left. And then I was outside smoking one, and he pulled by in a truck and then made this big old fence situation. And I wasn't going to fight him because I had a show to play. I had business to take care of. Hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line. 10,000 of his hometown fans out there screaming my name and screaming F him. Which I thought was hilarious. And so, yeah, I just basically talked some dirt with him until he raged out and climbed over the fence.
How does this beef?
I thought it was hilarious.
Like, well, he's not my.
And just to interject for just a second, I mean, Gavin Adcock is a 6'1", 240-pound former former defensive lineman. Zach Bryan is 5 foot, maybe 5 or 6. He's shorter than I am, and lives off of this calling. People are on social media saying, "Oh, he's a veteran," and then this guy divorced his wife via fax papers while she was deployed. Zach Bryan never did shit in the Navy. It's something that drives me insane. These people that go into the military don't do anything. They go to the military because they don't have any other direction in life and want to try to say that they've done something. They get discharged and then they go around saying they're a veteran. That's neither here nor there, but that's just a pet peeve of mine, but we're going to continue.
He's probably not my biggest fan and vice versa. Obviously, Brianna Chicken Fry, his ex-girlfriend, works here. They had a big falling out. I think the guy's a psychopath. How did your beef with him come about? Like, where's this stemming from?
I saw a 14-year-old girl post complaining that she didn't get to sign or take a picture with Zach when he just blew on by while he was heading to his car at a concert. And he went in the comments and went off on her and said, "You're not entitled to anything when I play a 2.5-hour show, this, that, get off my D." And so I just stepped in. I was like, why do people idolize you? Why do people even like come to your shows, or if they're not a good person? And obviously, if you can't handle criticism from a 14-year-old girl, you don't deserve the spotlight that you have. So I got asked that question a few times. I doubled down, and then I guess he'd been sitting at home twiddling his thumbs thinking about it for too long.
So next question, and you're a bigger guy. You played D1 football, went viral for chugging a beer on top of a moving bus. I don't know if we have that video. That's insane. But playing at Georgia Southern, got booted, started this career. Tougher guy than me. When I saw Zach, now, if I'm understanding, he's in the venue, so he had plenty of time to actually fight you or attack you, do whatever in the venue. He waits till he's outside. But how do you jump a barbed wire fence? Was he like bleeding when he landed?
He ripped his pants when he got over. He got halfway over and his pants got caught. And there was 7 security guards standing around, not only for my safety, but for his safety. And if I would have took off after him or he would have took off after me, the security guards were just going to grab us and hem us up and not let us do anything. Plus, I was just being the bigger man, you know. He seems y'all like to call him the smallest man in the world. He seems to wear that fucking pretty good.
All right, well, we're gonna end the clip there and just react. This is just who Zach Bryan is. Everything about this guy is orchestrated. Everything that after his breakup with Brianna Chicken Fry were publicity stunts. He literally contacted, I forget who it was, this UFC fighter, because Brie was there, had him give him a shout out, and the guy literally gave an interview after and saying, I don't know who he is. His team contacted my team like 10 times, and this was an orchestrated event. I do like Morgan Wallen, though, is what he threw in at the end. And this has just been this guy's shtick, this guy's motto for the past several years. And like I said, in my opinion, his music is no good. My ex-girlfriend tried her damnedest to get me to listen to him, and I actually tried for her, but I could not get down with any of it. It all sounded the same. It was this acoustic bullshit that just made no sense. It had no rhyme or reason, and it had no rhythm. And I'm sorry, I'm a guy that can't get down with music if it ain't got no rhythm. I love all different types of music. I love rap, I love rock, I love country, I love hip hop, R&B. But Zach Bryan, you will never have a fan in me. And yeah, all pun intended there. But I'm sorry. I mean, all these people, all these short-sighted folks are going on and comment on this video saying, oh, well, you clearly see Gavin backed away. He's a pussy. Like he said, there were 7 security guards there, A. And B, now no 6'1", 240-pound former lineman's afraid of some guy that's shorter than me. I'm sorry. Nobody's scared of Zach Bryan. I'm not scared of Zach Bryan. I would love it. I would have loved it. And this will never happen just because I don't have the reach. I'd love if he tried to come to the fence and go after me, because I would welcome that opportunity. Knock what little hair he has left on his head off. But whose side of this beef are you on? Because I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. I am loving the absolute public free fall of Zach Bryan and everyone seeing just what a little shit he really is. And to be completely honest with you, the reason I look down on him so much is because a lot of these problems, quote unquote problems that he has that are self-inflicted, I used to have a lot of those same problems. And I did the exact same thing. Oh, I need help, this and that, just to justify my bad decisions. And I finally got to the point where I was just like, fuck this. I'm going to take accountability and I'm going to work on myself. And I no longer drink. I prioritize my health. And I prioritize hanging out with people that uplift me, and I prioritize being away from the wrong crowd and the wrong things. And unless Zach Bryan gets these issues well at hand, which he has all the resources to, it's just going to be a never-ending cycle of toxicity, and he probably is going to drink himself to an early grave. And I don't wish that on anybody. I'd pray that he gets the help he needs and turns into a stand-up dude, because everyone's capable of redemption, in my opinion, and he deserves that chance too, but he keeps throwing those chances away. Believe me, I threw plenty of them away, and it took me until, I don't know how, the upteenth time to finally open my eyes and see. And I don't have the fame, money, nor resources that Zach Bryan has, and like Gavin Adcock even said, that guy smelled like nothing but alcohol when he was there. And I have a feeling that was probably the only reason he even had the guts to confront somebody like that, because we all know Zach Bryan's a fucking pussy. And anyone that disagrees clearly does not know this guy's background, and you're just caping for your favorite country singer. But we're going to get off here. I'm going to go eat some dinner, watch some Monday Night Football. We're going to be back here on Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. Be here, be square, be ready to comment. But until then, y'all, thank you for tuning into this Monday night edition of the Cory Standing Show. Thank you for putting up with my rants. Thank you for make sure you say some prayers for Joe Burrow. Go check out the Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation, as you see that logo right there and there. Check them out on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the like at Cory Standing. Make sure you follow the show at the Cory Standing Show. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell button. And until next time, you all be safe. Peace.